Alright. Hey, I'm Aqua or Aquarius of Fallen Snow if you don't know me. Welcome to this episode of the Shootin Gallery podcast. Welcome back if you've been here before. First thing I want to say to start off this episode is my apologies that, my camera is going to be a bit laggy. It's because, there's not enough light coming in through the window, and I have my ring light on here and I have a light on behind my other monitor, but it doesn't seem to be picking it up. Like if I get super close to the screen, you can see, yeah, even my hand. It's hard to visually represent it. If I get super close to the camera, it'll pick up my face and everything, and then it won't be as laggy, but that's okay. I hope people can enjoy this podcast, more or less just audio only, and then have the video as like an added bonus kind of thing. I haven't yet put the podcast up on any other platforms than YouTube, but hopefully in the future we can get there. I'm not too sure how to do that though, because I know the only way I have my music up on all platforms, like Spotify and stuff, is with DistroKid, but I don't know if I can upload a podcast through there or how that would work. I don't know how to upload to Spotify directly. It's not like SoundCloud. So, yeah, have to do some research on that. But other than that, I'll get into the episode here. I've had a few thoughts, floating around my mind today, and I was talking to Jewel earlier about, God and religion and stuff. And I'll kind of I'll start with how my day started, I guess, and then kind of go into the thoughts I've been having from there. But I basically want to talk about in this episode why life is beautiful and how I'm kind of getting a new lease on life kind of thing. But I woke up this morning around 3:30. Like I checked the time, it was 3:35, I think. So I don't know. I could have even woken up at 3:33 exactly. But I woke up and I got up. I couldn't. I don't usually go back to sleep if I wake up, and I went to bed early, so I wasn't needing the sleep basically. And I got up and I showered and everything, but there was a thought that kept going through my head since the instance I woke up. Actually, there were two, and I feel like it was kind of a yin and yang of like a decision of, oh, well, you have two options, which do you want to pick? And I basically stuck with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I basically woke up and I had the Dead Sea Scrolls, look into the Dead Sea Scrolls, going like repeating in my head basically, and I was wondering why, and I gave it some time, and I tried to wake up. I usually, if I wake up before Jewel, I'll usually, have a few smokes, do pieces litter, clean that up. I'll usually watch some like YouTube or Instagram, whatever it is. I'll look through the reels or the shorts, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, the thought is still there in my head to look into the Dead Sea Scrolls, so why don't I do some research into them? And I can kind of give a little breakdown into them. Like, they were, scrolls or texts on animal hide or like papyrus that were found in the Middle East. They were found in clay pots in caves. I forget the exact region, but basically, what people have deduced through carbon dating and through different means is that these seem to be stories that are talked about in the Bible, but these would carbon date to before the first known Bible was written. I'm pretty sure. Like these are stories that they would have had in the Bible. That this is kind of an earlier dating of them, I guess. And I watched a few different videos on them, and one of the guys was talking about how, he basically, he references some of them, but then he doesn't reference other books of the Bible, and how, some of it is representative of the Christian belief and others isn't. So I feel like it's up to interpretation, but it basically led me to this weird point of, watching Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan, which are two people I don't usually throw on. I used to be heavy into Joe Rogan. I was watching through the podcast quite a bit, but I don't know. I usually only watch podcasts for the guests, but I like, sorry. I usually subscribe to podcasts for the host, but then I watch the episodes based on the guest kind of thing, or like based on the title, what resonates. But I don't really know how I ended up on this point. I think I saw something connected through the Dead Sea Scrolls, but basically I got to this video of Jordan Peterson talking, and I took a few notes here, but he was basically talking about some of the things that I reference in terms of like, see, it's hard to even put that into words. Like the panpsychism, everything being connected, everything being consciousness, and how God is more of like the base for everything to be created on top of, right? Time and space is part of God, but it's within it. And I don't know if he said that. That might have been something I saw in a short taken from somewhere else. But he was also talking about how. Here, let me see if I have the quote here. He says the word, and then I put in parentheses, God, because I think that's what he was referring to, is the basis of reality, the process that generates order from chaos, right? And I think through free will, we have the ability to choose whether are we embody or we choose to live to our perceived good or bad, right? He says that's kind of part of Christianity, is that, or I guess it could even be his own beliefs or philosophies, where he talks about, you should align yourself with the highest good that you can think of, and then what was the second step? Assume that everybody else is also doing that, also living to their highest potential good, and then from there, I forget what the third step was. Sorry, I think from there he basically said like that would quote unquote create the first version of Eden or whatever, like having a world where everybody is trying to be the best version of themselves, or they are trying to do good, not for receiving monetary gains or incentive for doing good, but just for doing the good out of the goodness of your heart, because as he was saying, like it comes from within, right? And I think that's something that we really need to be aware of, especially between society, the economy, organized religion, whatever it is. It's like when, especially when I talk about God specifically, I've said this in some of my older content, but I have a different definition of God than, the dictionary definition or a lot of other people, but I feel like it does more resonate with what Jordan Peterson was saying, in the sense of, it is the basis. It should be a synonym for life and death and cycles, infinity, everything, nothingness. Like it's us, but it's consciousness experiencing itself. Sorry, and I think that's what's kind of giving me a new lease on life, and I don't know. It could also be in turn. There are a few ways I want to go with this. It could also be in turn because I recently started taking SSRIs, which are like anti-anxiety, antidepressant medication. The dose to start is only 5 milligrams, so it's just to get my body started. It's basically barely anything, right? But I'm doing this to see if, because I've been against SSRIs for a while, or like antidepressants and the whole pharmaceutical industry, but with I'm getting some government assistance now, and they're paying for it, so it's not out of my pocket, and hopefully it'll help me out in the sense of being able to get back into society, into the workforce and the economy and all that shit, because I've been taking a break for a while trying to make some content, and I've been having some issues with working because of my mental state and stressing myself out. So I'm taking these SSRIs now to see what happens. This will be my third day now when I take them tonight, so it could be a bit of placebo, but I wonder if it's a bit of a mix between, like, maybe not attaching too much to the concepts, or just like through my experience living life trying to talk about these topics and concepts, but it I'm not feeling like I'm fighting it as much as I was before, because there were a few days before where I really felt like I was not necessarily fighting these concepts, but fighting to try and talk about these concepts or try and, you know, forge my own path. And this kind of relates both to the how what happened this morning, I should say, and this finding a new lease on life, or what is it? Sorry, my brain's going all over the place here. Um, but basically, I had this experience a few days ago as well, where I woke up and the thing that was in my head was conversations change lives, right? Conversations change lives. It just kept repeating in my head. And I wonder if that's kind of telling me to keep going with this podcast and with the content I'm making, as well as where I ended up today from, the thing that was in my head. Between connecting religion to the Jordan Peterson podcast, or Jordan Peterson on Joe Rogan that I was watching, having this experience a few days ago, as well as the one today, mixing it with the SSRIs, I think this is really helping me kind of relax and feel less anxious about life and about living, because, you know, it could be cabin fever, or it could just be these effects getting worse over time, but even from elementary school and high school, I would have anxiety about leaving the house and going to school, being around people, not even necessarily thinking about them judging me or anything, but just like being in close proximity to people kind of stressed me out. And now it kind of feels like that's coming back, or it's kind of getting worse in a sense where some days I don't even want to do groceries. I have to push it a day or two because I'm getting anxious about being around people, but hopefully with, you know, the medicine, the medication, and also, you know, maybe looking into religion more, or maybe it's continuing with the content as I'm doing it right now, and just speaking from the top of my head, and just because that's something else, Jordan. Sorry. Like I said, I was in a mood to ramble. That's another thing that Jordan Peterson said, is he was talking about, your inspiration. It's kind of like a golden thread that you're following through, whatever comes up, or, um, you know, I'm almost struggling to put this into words, but it's almost exactly what I was feeling today, in the sense of I woke up with this idea in my head, oh, the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay, I can look into that. And then it led me to this point of having other realizations, or having a great conversation with Jewel, where today we weren't arguing. I don't think we usually argue. We weren't getting upset at each other or raising our voices or anything like that. I think we were genuinely listening to each other and having a great conversation, which was really nice. But we were talking about this, and I was kind of relating it to, like, this is where I was getting excited when I was talking to her, because you know, everything is connected, right? Oh, I'm not doing this justice. I was getting so happy because I was realizing, like, oh yeah, speaking is bringing consciousness to reality, right? You're creating the thoughts in your head through vibrations, through conversation. And that was something that Joe Rogan quoted, I think. He said, maybe Terence McKenna said, our whole world is shaped or formed through words, through conversations. Pardon me, excuse me. And I think that's absolutely true, because not only is that how we create the ideas in our head, we don't have to use our voice, right? We can just use our hands to create. But I think once you get to a point of, having other people around you, it becomes, we kind of rely more on communication than just body language, or feeling, right? We don't really tap into, like, trying to read people's thoughts. We just go, okay, well, tell me what you're thinking. I can't read your thoughts. And in that sense, I wonder if we are limiting ourselves by saying we can't read thoughts. Because what if we said we can? And that's what body language is, right? You can read people's thoughts or like how they're feeling through their body without them saying anything. And it feels like everything's just kind of clicking into place now, and I just want to put my head down and keep going with this stuff because I feel like it really is important to do or be that person in society, I guess, that tries to connect the dots or bring people together. I don't need to control people or lead people because Jordan Peterson was talking about, the story of Moses and the burning bush and how Joe Rogan brought up how it could have been a DMT trip. But I think, yeah, if a acacia tree got hit by lightning, this guy sees a burning tree, goes over to investigate, has a DMT trip, and now he's investigating his mind and going within. He's doing both the external and the internal exploration. And it's it's so cool. Like I feel like that's kind of what I've been trying to do with my whole life these past few years, especially, is just can I almost make my life like a psychedelic trip in terms of like waking up every day and being like, oh my god, that's what this person was saying, and trying to connect it to this and how everything works together and how everything functions. And I feel like that's the beautiful part about life. That's the beautiful part about philosophy and religion or spirituality, whatever you want to call it. But it's all looking into the same shit, which is us and our existence and how we, interact with that, with existence and reality. And I feel like if we built that into the base of everything, like our education system and, our economy and everything, how different would our world be? Right? And these are topics that I talk about not only in my World Without Money video, which I can link in the description of this podcast episode, but also in my other podcast episode. So if you have been enjoying this one up to this point, I highly suggest checking out the other episodes after because, I'm feeling good. This is the first time I've been really feeling good about this shit in a while because I feel like I have been second guessing, questioning myself, almost, blind, having faith, blindly just pushing through the shit to get to a point where I'm like, yes, it is feeling right. This feels like what I need to do. I'm on the right track in terms of I still have been looking for work and trying to find a job, get back into working. I've been getting some help monetarily paying bills, so I haven't been too stressed about, making enough money to survive. But yeah, it's taken one step at a time, and that's kind of like, you know, life life in this physical body isn't long, but I feel like once you connect to, either the Akashic records or your other incarnations, both in the past and in the future, then you realize life isn't like life in the body is short, but existence is forever. Existence is eternal, right? So when somebody dies, they're only leaving the physical, but they're back to the eternal forever, right? So I don't know. In that sense, I don't get sad hearing about people passing in the sense of like, oh, if I have family or a friend that passed away, it does bum me out because I don't get to interact with them in the physical anymore. But it doesn't get me depressed to that level of like existential dread. Sorry, it took me a second to kind of click the words there. Existential dread of thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Life is short. Yada yada yada. If I can get to a point where I'm enjoying my life every day, then I'm in heaven every day already. I don't need to wait till after life to see what's next because chances are it's just going to be another life, another reincarnation, or maybe it's a split. Like, maybe you do get to a point where you either learn a lesson or you get to a level of enlightenment, in heavy quotations here, a level of enlightenment where you do kind of evolve out of this world. Yeah, I'm gonna cut that out. I usually don't edit the podcast, but I just got completely derailed and sidetracked looking at the plants in front of me. And to a certain extent, maybe that is part of life in terms of, yeah, you get to a point where you conceptualize so much and then you just gotta live. You gotta be present. But, yeah, it's just, it makes me laugh how I take my own focus away. And I'm sure that has to do with the ADHD and, whatever else is going on with the sensors, the connectors in the brain, the neurons firing, doing their thing, whatever, and the haptic pruning not pruning enough, or whatever it is. But again, it's all conceptual. Life as irony, which is another video I posted. I can link that in the description. Actually, yeah, there was a different episode of the podcast. My apologies. But basically, yeah, I was talking about kind of the same thing where life is ironic because anything you talk about is you, but we should be laughing about it and not feeling the dread or existential doom scrolling, whatever it is, right? And I would like to know what you guys think of, the thoughts that I have when I wake up. Is that my own thoughts, just the voice in my head? Is that the voice of God speaking to me? Am I getting a download from the heavens, from the aether, whatever? Could it be both, or is it neither? Just, give you some options. Maybe you have your own idea of what it is. Maybe it's aliens trying to contact me. Who knows? Could be. Maybe it's what religion talks about with it, the calling, or having what's it? Yeah, being spoken to by God or being chosen, whatever the case. I don't know. I don't want to consider myself like, oh, I'm chosen. I am this person. I am embodying this role. But at any one point, I could be the teacher or the student. I could be the leader or the follower. Like it's my choice to choose whichever I am in the moment. But I feel like it's when we get too attached to those ideas that then we start getting lost because you're not giving yourself the ability to embody or to be whichever one you want to be at whatever time. You know what I mean? And I feel like another reason that life is beautiful is because we can have that duality of both the ego and living in this, third dimensional world and feeling the feelings of fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, but then we can also connect to that higher level at the exact same time and get to this level of like, oh, I don't know, get to this level of, because we are there constantly all the time, of, a higher self or embodying that quote unquote Christ consciousness, right? Like, I don't know. Life is beautiful. And I feel like I don't say that enough, or I don't necessarily feel that enough, but I gotta tap into that divine feminine, because if you look up yin and yang on Google, actually, let me pull it up quickly so I have the image to reference. Yin and yang. And then you go to images, you can find a good one that has the two. And on the dark side, it says the moon, darkness, cool, passive, dependent, nurturing, negative, compared to the positive, which is the white. And I think that would be the feminine. Yes, and then the other side, the white side here says the sun, light, warmth, aggressive, independent, self sufficient, positive. But I feel like the positive and negative is like the polarity of magnets, or the polarity, the two ends of a battery, right? You have to have a negative and positive for the flow, but it's not necessarily associating it with conceptual um, negative and positive, good and bad kind of thing. In a sense, you could, but even Jordan Peterson was talking about how in the Tao, there's the two serpents of chaos and order, but they go together like the yin and the yang. Sorry, I'm kind of cooking my throat here, so I probably won't go on too much longer, but I wanted to get these ideas into a podcast and kind of talk about my experience because I feel like today and the past few days have kind of been on an upswing. And who knows, maybe this is one of the hills, and then in a few days I will have a valley, and I will, talk about that experience or see what I learn from that experience. But yeah, I'm definitely going to keep on this track of connecting the dots and trying to bring people together and bridge gaps instead of, you know, not necessarily keeping people divided, but kind of perpetuating this choosing a side and saying that, oh, any way is, pardon me, saying that any one way is better than another, or to do this one thing because this is the right thing to do. It's like, no, it's your own perspective. You choose what is the right thing to do, but you have the free will to either do what you choose as good or do what you choose as bad. Or you can just say that everything you do is good, and then, then you're getting a bit into the egotistical. But hey, if that's the life you want to embody, I'm sure there are, because I feel like we are all in this, sorry, I'm going to keep going a sec. I feel like we're all in this cycle of reincarnations where, maybe the one in my next reincarnation, so in my future, it's going to be somebody in the past, but then my past reincarnation was somebody from the future, and then you still have people from the modern era mixed in there. It just, it's so weird to try and describe it, but I feel like it's also about, which reincarnations are kind of on either end of you in the cycle of reincarnations and just in the never-ending reincarnations, basically. But yeah, life is beautiful. We are all reincarnations of each other, and we are consciousness experiencing itself. And we have the ability, we have free will to choose whether we want to feel the ego and all the pain body, three-dimensional static feelings, or if we want to, feel something other than that. But, I feel like the embodying the three-dimensional and the static is why it's hard to have this conversation with everyone, or we aren't having this conversation as much as we could or maybe should be. But, it is what it is. Unironically, one of the best sayings, because life is irony, so it literally is what it is, but then it's ironic because it also is what you think it is, which is not what it actually is, which then turns it into a paradox. See, and this is why I like fucking around in the conceptual, because I can just fuck around and make myself laugh, and like I was told since I was a kid, go entertain yourself, so that's what I'm doing. But yeah, like I said, I'm cooking my throat. It's almost half an hour of blabbing here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode coming out or whatever else I'm working on. It's honestly infinite possibilities of what video could come out next, so, subscribe and stick around. Stick around for the ride, because we're only at, 34 subscribers now? Pretty damn good. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed and who is supporting the journey so far. And then shout out to everybody who's watching this in the future who may subscribe from this and then say, hey, I kind of rock with this. Or kind of rock with the episodes and then go back to see this. You know what I mean? I appreciate it. Life is beautiful. God is good, because we are God and God is us, and, all that. Look within. Look without. Look outside of yourself. Look within yourself. It's all you. Life is irony, and we should laugh about it. I'm making myself laugh. It's awesome. Life is beautiful. You're beautiful. And like I say in my videos, I love you. Stay safe. Good luck. And take it easy, man. Take a break once in a while. Peace.